we've been watching like some This Is Your Life stuff, and so it's for me it started with watching This Is Your Life, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, but then before you know it, I from the 50s. Before you know it, I ended up on William Shatner, This Is Your Life, and it was just too delicious to not talk about.
Thank you so much
for that gift.
For that, it was truly I feel blessed for that.
What a moment in time, because first of all, it's William Shatner, This Is Your Life, and like part of This Is Your Life, the conceit is they pretend like they're surprising you, like they show up on this, and it's like whoever they're doing the thing about, it's like them with a director's cap with like a megaphone sitting in a director's chair saying, okay, everybody, places. And then he like sort of taps him on the shoulder and it's like, okay, this is your life and we're going to do this. And so, but for this, it's William Shatner directing and starring in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Legendary Star Trek movie, famous on the Total Recall show for sure.
We love it here. He's in the Enterprise set wearing a suit.
Yeah, there's no, like the conceit is totally gone. Like it is like, what is it? Because he's just standing around. It's not like he's like directing anybody. He's standing around on the set of the Enterprise in like a full suit. And then everybody else in the background is in their Starfleet uniform. So it's like, oh, this is one of those scenes that William Shatner is not in. Okay, like what?
He's like Chris Nolan. He directs in like a suit.
Well, that's a question I have. Like, he's in it and he's directing it. So if he's directing a scene, is he in his Starfleet uniform?
Oh, and yeah, he's staring right at the camera, and that guy like sneaks in through the back door with that huge book.
Right, and then he insults him because he says like, "Oh, this is your life. You mean that idea that you ripped off from American television?" Because like the ones in the 50s and stuff with Jim Lang, it was it was like an old TV show, and then it kind of went away. I mean, it was before our time, and then but in England, it like continued on, and maybe even is still continuing to this day, or like this British production of it. So I saw John Inman, This Is Your Life.
Wow!
Like you can get some deep cuts of the British version of This Is Your Life.
I feel like I don't remember, but I feel like the Muppets or Sesame Street, or that's where I learned about This Is Your Life from like a parody of it.
Yeah, I mean, I always heard, like, I never saw This Is Your Life. I always heard like this is your life. Like I heard, like I just sort of heard that, but like the first thing I ever saw was on the Howard Stern Channel 9 show. They did Howard Stern, This Is a Life ? Where it was like, This Is Your Life, but Howard Stern. So that was like the first. So that's my references. Yeah,
is Howard
just like I know the song, The Sounds of Kinnison. Like I knew that song before I knew The Sounds of Silence. The Sounds of Silence was like The Sounds of Kinnison was a song parody based on The Sound of Silence, but like I knew the Sounds of Kinnison first, and then it's like, oh, Simon and Garfunkel did it first. Okay, The Sounds of Kinnison. It was like after Sam Kinison died, they did this tribute to him where it was like, hello, Sam, my old friend. It was like that kind of thing, but then it would have all these sound effects of him going, The Sounds of Kinnison. But yeah, so This Is a Life with Howard Stern.
And then, they take Shatner to the set.
The Howard Stern This Is a Life parody. They had the original host of This Is Your Life as because like they would have on that show, they'd have so many people who were just sort of washed up, like he was doing nothing. I think it was Jim Lang. He was doing nothing. So it's like, okay, they have the host of This Is Your Life hosting so Howard Stern. This Is a Life. I mean, they had Bob Denver and Dawn Wells,
God.
Marianne and Gilligan on, and did a Gilligan's Island parody where they had to cannibalize the skipper. They had this like skeleton dressed in Alan Hale's costume that they were like eating.
I'm looking that up immediately.
Yeah, what a show.
Is that and oh my god.
But so yeah, we saw Shatner, This Is Your Life, and he's like, and then they step on this like transporter that like looks like no Star Trek transporter I've ever seen. Although maybe it's from Universal Studios where it's like a ride that you can sort of go on.
And Shatner says, "We're gonna zap you up."
Yeah,
He's
again,
not.
when I saw Shatner in concert, he claimed that he's never seen an episode of Star Trek. Like the only episodes he's seen are the ones he directed because he had to, but that he just can't watch it. And I believe him. Like I don't think like he doesn't seem to know much about Star Trek. And I think that's kind of that's like a badge of pride. Like Ringo talks about how like he loses at Beatles trivia, and stuff. So I get it.
And yeah, and then they have like it looks like a jury kind of everyone keeps coming out. His one of his ex-wives come out.
Yeah, his wife at the time. The part that I found so telling, and again, this was like after I'd just sort of seen Shatner in concert, where I'd heard some of his anecdotes and stuff. Leonard Nimoy comes out and just like keeps saying over and over, "He's a horrible man. He's a horrible person. He's a bad person." He just keeps saying it over and over again, and then he and it's like. Many a truth is said in jest. Like I believed him when he said that too, and because he talked about all the times Shatner stole his bike and like dismantled his bike, broke into the backseat of his car, stole it, like would repeatedly
had his car towed.
Yeah, had his car towed. He would repeatedly steal Leonard Nimoy's bike that he used to get around the set. And I heard like before I saw this, I heard William Shatner tell that story, and he'd tell all these stories of these like awful practical jokes that he'd pull on Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley, and it's like I don't like they were funny anecdotes and stuff, but I don't know if everybody involved felt that way. But I mean, again, like him and Leonard, they're like first of all they're going into the boxing stance, like they're ready to fight.
His smile like curls into a frown. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's in like a fighting stance with Leonard.
There is some shtick going on too. But I believe that Leonard Nimoy at a certain point decided that like it's easier to just be friends with this guy than be on the wrong side of it. Like let me just and he just kind of committed to that.
Yeah, they're like forcefully like hugging each other. Mm-hmm. They're like kind of like shaking each other.
Yeah, it's adversarial, and I imagine Shatner kind of like anybody who has to deal with Shatner kind of has to handle him that way. Like he'll just eat you alive unless you kind of come at him like the dog whisperer, like Caesar. Yeah, that you gotta kind of like you can't turn your back on him, and you gotta stand your full height when you're talking.
Yeah, he keeps talking about like the height of all the people they're bringing out. He's like,
they're all so much taller than me. They're bringing out all these giants.
And then his kids come out and they talk about like, him running out of gas in like a camper and like holding them out the door to go to the bath. It's like another terrible story.
Right? Yeah, it's everybody smiling, telling these charming anecdotes about how William Shatner ruined their lives, and then they're kind of realizing as they're telling it what they're, and then they're saying about how he brought them on the set, like he got them like a job as like extras or whatever on Star Trek as a way of showing them how horrible show business is, so they won't go into it. And it's like, okay, well, what's that about?
And then he had his the lady that is managing his like thoroughbred horse.
Yeah, because again, he would talk about that too. He's really into his giant dogs, and he's also like, I like big dogs. I don't like small dogs. And he was making fun of the death of DeForest Kelley's Chihuahua or something, because to him it's like not even a dog if it's that small, and like, and it was like, it was kind of horrifying. Hearing him talk about how he laughed in DeForest Kelley's face when DeForest Kelley told him that his dog died. Yeah.
Adrian Zemed was there with a blown out mullet talking about like him being a horrible driver on TJ Hooker. Mm-hmm. And
it was kind of cool because like back then, like TJ Hooker wasn't that long in the past. It was still like within arm's reach.
And Shatner's out there touring now. And I was like, oh, Adrian Zemed. Looked him up. Adrian Zemed's like the kid on that show. He's 70 years old now. So Shatner's like in his 90s. So he is like, it's great that he's still out there.
Amazing. Star Trek Five: The Final Frontier. It was like Shatner's look. It was like kind of like the last moment for that look because it wasn't too different from the look of like Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
But then after that, he kind of morphs into like the Shatner look that he has to this very day. Like he's kind of
Yeah.
he's like sort of forever 59 or something. What I mean? Like he's in his 90s, but he looks like he could be 60.
I'm gonna watch the Bud Abbott and Lou Costello one that you had recommended.
Yeah, you know what else I started watching? I started watching the Bud and Lou TV movie. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I never saw that.
With Harvey Korman and Buddy Hackett. Harvey Korman plays Bud Abbott and Buddy Hackett plays Lou Costello. And so for the rest of my life I always thought of like Buddy Hackett as Lou Costello. I know the difference, but I'd seem to be like, oh, there's the guy who that's Lou Costello over there. And like Buddy Hackett, it's so funny because he's kind of like Joey Ross. He's kind of like Joey Ross from Car 54, where his persona in like movies and shows and stuff is so like kind of like sweet, and he's kind of like like a childlike and innocent or whatever. But then like his comedic his stand-up comedy persona is like real raunchy and stuff. So it's
Shatner, we should do Generations 2 down the road too.
I'd love to revisit that because again,
I've never seen it.
Oh, you've never seen it? Wow. Yeah, because I mean, I enjoyed it to a degree, but I was kind of like, it didn't land quite right for me at the time. I've seen it a couple times since. It was sort of like early CGI. It was early CGI. Like it was post Jurassic Park.
Okay.
It was kind of like, okay, CGI is here, but it's still, they haven't quite worked the kinks out of it. So like in Generations, there's a scene where the Enterprise crashes. And it's like all, like all these like close-ups and like in your face and, high action and stuff. And I just thought like in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, like you see the Enterprise off in the distance as it's like sort of crashing. It was so real and so convincing. And it was like, wow, that's like what it would really look like. And then and it was so simple. It was such a simple effect. And then this is like this elaborate, labored effect that's just so ineffective, and it's trying to grab you by the lapels, and it's just not doing anything.
Dude, I cannot wait.
Yeah, we'll watch it.
On another future episode, I started watching that movie that you recommended, Fast Break with Gabe Kaplan.
I started watching that. I don't know if there's enough there for a Total Recall show episode, but I was enjoying it.
Me too.
It feels kind of like Slapshot,
yes,
but basketball
with
Gabe Kaplan.
Oh my God.
I mean, I was excited to see like, ooh, Gabe Kaplan's like where he's sort of taking the Mr. Cotter persona into the movies, into cinema, and his wife, I was watching, I was like, she looks so familiar. I was trying to imagine her like older. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's the mom from The Karate Kid. It's Daniel LaRusso's mom.
I was wondering. I was like,
I was like, I know that face. Not this young, but I know that face as
So comforting because like when she's speaking, she's like, Daniel.
Yeah, and she's really given Gabe Kaplan a hard time.
Oh yeah,
like, she is busting his balls to no end. But yeah, contrast that with like how sweet Mrs. LaRusso is. Nice car, Mrs. LaRusso.
It's like watching this Fast Break, I'm like, man, I would love to run into like 1979 era Gabe Kaplan on the streets of New York, like in his natural environment.
Yeah, and like again, because like I think of like Gabe Kaplan as like this old guy. So in the movie, it's like his hair and his beard's jet black, and then he's going for this coaching job, and he's like, yeah, they're looking for like a young guy like me to blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, I guess back then he was young. I just don't think of him that way.
They're looking for a spry young guy like me,
Gabe Kaplan, who worked at Jack Ruby's Comedy Club, the spring chicken, who was there before Lee Harvey Oswald got shot.
He's like, hey Kaplan, watch the grill. I gotta go take care of some business.